Good morning. Good Sunday morning. So anyway, sit down, relax a little. I've got probably 30 minutes before church. Yes, I do, before I start streaming. So I'm good because I'm not going to talk that long, or am I? I never know what's going to happen. So hello. I'm glad to see you all. And I hope you're glad to see me. Anyway, this morning I was thinking about, I'll say, now walk that path where Jesus would be pleased with you. So I just asked Google about some verses about walking the path because when I started that, I just thought, that's a good one. I'm going to keep it up. But in Proverbs 3rd chapter, 5th and 6th verses, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. So that works for me, and it'll work for you. This morning, changing the subject, God is good all the time, and I really appreciate Sunday because my pastor preaches good, and I'll stream him later. He don't start till 10 o'clock. We got time. Got my coffee from McDonald's. Had a good breakfast this morning down at White Castle. Those waffles are good with sausage and egg. And it's enough to do you. But you know what else I did? I ordered James some more of this candy like this. Well, now he's not been getting much of it. I had 2 of them this morning with my coffee when I got here. Delicious. So I'm going to continue the story of my very good friend, Anna Marie, that God sent me when I was walking up at the mall, when I was all alone and I was so lonely, and I started praying, Lord, send me a friend. And she walked up there and she stopped me one day and said, would you want to be friends? And it worked out. She gave me her phone number. She had it ready. She said, I've been watching you and I like you. Just watching me. That's the Lord. He went before me and made the crooked places straight. So Anna Marie, I called her up then when I got home because that girl, she's dead and gone. Her husband is dead and gone. She still has family, but I wasn't close to her family. But one of them was awful sweet. Her baby daughter was a doll. But anyway, Anna Marie was such a good friend. The Lord sent her. I was alone, and my sister abandoned me and her husband. He was very jealous of her and wanted to possess her all the time. He was very controlling. That's the only word for it, controlling. And she loved him so much, whatever he said was law. That's life. So I decided I'd pray for a friend, and I was so surprised how, even we are surprised. We pray about things and then God answers, and then we say, well, what do you know? Is that a fact? Did it really happen? Yes, it did. So Anna Marie and I, we went places, we did things. She was my prayer partner. One time we took a tour bus. You can get those tour buses and ride. We went to Memphis, down at Elvis Presley's home place, and I got the tour. I thought it would be bigger and more fancy than that, but it was beautiful, but it wasn't near what I expected for somebody as wealthy as he was to have. But we just enjoyed the whole trip. So that's not the only trip I went on. When I was alone, then when I married Floyd, we took, what we did for our honeymoon? We took a tour to Disney World for our honeymoon, and that was different, but that was fun too. That's another time, another story. So we'll go on with Anna Marie. So I told you yesterday how Anna Marie, as a beautician, her husband was running around on her. Now this girlfriend of her husband lived in another town far from here. She drove a mail truck and he drove a mail truck, and their paths crossed sometimes. But that man, he may not even told her he was married. It's very easy for a man to just pop that wedding ring right off his finger And you don't know he's married if he wants to run around. Well, that didn't happen to me that I know of, but I met a few guys, but I really didn't date very many of them. There's not too many old men available, girls. I'm sorry about that for you senior citizen girls. You know what the old men do? They stay at home and watch The Price is Right. I had this one real good friend, and I just really liked him. We had breakfast together a lot. He took me out to eat one time, but then one day he said, you know what? I got to get home and watch The Price is Right instead of doing something. A lot of the seniors, men, don't want to do anything. They just want to sit at home and watch. Thank God, and I mean that sincerely. James is not like that. Of course, he's 8 years younger, but he don't want to just sit around the house and watch TV all the time. He still works and stays on the job. So Anna Marie and I, back to that. She told me the story of her life, how she married this Air Force guy and came to America, and she got a job as a beautician. She also worked other places, but her and her husband made up. And as far as I know, she said he never ran around on her again because she was going to cut that girl's hair off. She had her a pair of scissors, and she had her by the hair of the head, and she was going to do it. Her husband drug her off, that other poor girl, whoever. And who knows if he deceived her or not. We don't know. They're all dead now. They're all in a wherever. So anyway, Anna Marie's husband, after that time, bought one of those big old motorcycles. I mean, it was gorgeous. She had pictures of it, and she showed it to me. And it would ride 2 people. And he just loved it, and he would beg her to ride with him. Come and ride with me on my motorcycle. She said, I was scared of it. I would not get on it. No way. But after 3 years, she gave in and rode with him on the motorcycle. She said, you know, it was fun. I missed out on good times, but I didn't realize it. But she said, when I started riding with him on the motorcycle, we joined like a motorcycle club of married couples or couples, and they rode everywhere together. It was not the Hells Angels that rode together. They were not the Hells Angels. They were families, husbands and wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, and there was about, I don't know, 5 or 10 couples in the group, and they would take trips together. She told me she had such a wonderful time. And one time she said they went out west and stayed a week or so, and they would stay in motels at night, wherever they was at, and they just saw the country on their motorcycles. And she said that was so much fun. So she really began to enjoy her married life, and did for many years after that, which was good. So I was happy about that for her when she told me. And she said they took a trip one time, and they had a wreck, and he hit his head, and he said, I'm all right. And he got up, and so she said, are you sure? Should we have that checked out? He had a big knot in his head. He said, yeah, I'm okay. She said, well, if you're sure then. So anyhow, they went on home, and so in a week or so, they were going on another trip, and he was still doing all right. So they got on their motorcycle, and they headed for Nashville. There was a motorcycle place down there that he wanted to go visit because there was something special they only had, and he wanted to make a trip to Nashville and go get it. He said, go with me. And they were retired. So she hopped on that motorcycle and went with him. And they went down to the motorcycle shop, and they were shopping, and yes, they had what he wanted, and he bought it, and they were getting ready to leave, and he fell over. He just passed out suddenly. Anne Marie said, what happened? What happened? Well, they tried to wake him up, and they couldn't. He wasn't dead. He was still breathing. So they called an ambulance, and they took him to the hospital, she said. She said, and there I was in Nashville. My husband, I've got that big old motorcycle. What am I going to do? What does a widow do when she's, well, she turned out, I'm ahead of my story. He was in the hospital, and when he got there, he had a brain injury so bad he didn't recover. After about a few more hours, he passed away. And she said, what am I going to do with this motorcycle? What do I do? She said, well, I managed somehow or other to get his body home, give him a funeral, get that motorcycle home. I don't know how she got home. I don't remember what she said. But she got home, and she was a widow lady. And when I met her, she was a widow lady and had been for a long time. Fact is, it had been a few years. She had a boyfriend who I happened to know, who was a real nice man. But that didn't amount to anything. He was just a boyfriend and really a companion. She didn't put out. Y'all know what that means, don't you? Us back in the old days, they said, well, does she put out? The guys would, no, she didn't. She's a good girl. Oh, yeah, this one puts out. I shouldn't include that, but that's what the way they talk. Nowadays, they say we just hang with each other. It's different. And they really move in together and everything else. And you know I'm 91, and I just frown on that. I'd rather they get married, but a lot of them don't get married nowadays. They live together, and then they get married in 5 years. I had a granddaughter that did that. Her and her boyfriend even bought a house together. But they got married, and they were saving their money for a big wedding, they said. And that's what they did. They had a big, beautiful wedding. It was gorgeous. And now they've been married a few years. After all, I've been around a while. And she's expecting a little baby. So I'm happy they got married, and they're very happy. Everything keeps changing. That's what Anne Marie used to say all the time. She was such a good friend. So anyhow, she has this beautiful home out in the country with like an acre of ground with flowers everywhere. Flowers was her passion. The yard was her passion. And she just had the beautiful small garden. She'd have tomatoes and green beans, and she had room for it all. And she loved to take care of all that. Now, I never was that really great about raising big gardens, but I used to raise, right here where I'm at, I used to raise a garden in my backyard where the two-car garage is. And I had some good garden, but it wasn't so big you couldn't handle it without, you didn't have to have a lot of machinery. I could do it with a hoe. And I would raise cucumbers and corn. One time I raised corn, and it got so tall, the newspaper came and took a picture of it and put it in the paper. It made headlines. So anyway, Anna Marie was a widow lady, and she says she kept it a few years, her big house, and then she decided, I'm going to move to town. I don't feel like driving all this distance by myself, and she still wants to go to the mall walking and keep her health up, and she did. So she put the house up for sale and sold it, but before she did that, she bought her a double wide in a trailer park out the road from me. A really nice trailer park. And this trailer park was a high-class trailer park, not like those dumpy trailer parks. They called it the Pines. And they have some beautiful trailers out. Don't you like this hat? I found this hat the other day down at the Methodist thrift store for 50 cents. And James says, you got to get that. And I said, yes, I got to get that and wear that when I do a video one of these days. We like to do different things. I'm kind of like Anne Marie when it comes to that. She said everything keeps changing, and it does. So she found her this beautiful double wide, and she had a bunch of money. So she had the whole thing reinforced because they're kind of flimsy. And this trailer park is so nice that when tornadoes come, they have a dugout shelter where you can go and wait till it's all over. And she went to that more than once. And that's right here, 3 miles down the road from me. Now, I got in the bathtub is what I did. Or my next door neighbor here, the one that fought about the line, the dividing line between the properties, it's a shared driveway, and it's in the deed that way. And they didn't want anybody in that driveway. They wanted it for themselves only. And I fought them for a few years, and then they gave up. God took care of it. But we were friends sometimes. And so I'd go over to his basement, him and his wife's basement. And she would be working when tornadoes would come, and she didn't come home. And he had retired. And so me and the kids would go to the basement, and that water would pour into that basement like a flood. It would get up on your feet because it didn't have a sump pump, if you know what that is. James put sump pumps in houses. So anyhow, Anne Marie bought this beautiful double wide, and it's a park that was right across the road from where my mom lived, which we have these beautiful places called the Knobs. And in the fall, when the leaves would turn, Mom could see them out her front window. And she just loved to look at the colors changing. She says, now when that pines builds all them trailers over there, I won't be able to see my knobs. But she was wrong. It never obstructed her view at all. So she could still enjoy it till Jesus called her home. She had many happy years out there in that house for her. And, you know, I told the story how we found me a stepdaddy. And somebody commented and says, I wish you lived near here so you could help me find somebody. Honey, they're few and far between. If the Lord don't direct you, you're up the creek without a paddle. Because most of these old men still have wives. And I tell you what, women outlive men. There's a lot more women out there looking than there is men. I guarantee you that. I'm blessed that I changed churches crying over number 2 and met James. But I wasn't just looking for. Of course, I notice a good-looking man when I see him, and I still do. I'm still a little flirty. I talk to strangers. I talk to the fence post. No, I talk to myself. I'm a talker, as you well know. And some of y'all are saying, now you watch me all the way through. Well, I was watching Chit Chat Granny Pat. She's going to be 89 now, you know. And I watched her all the way through last night. I don't always watch her all the way through, but I did last night. She says, I'm 89 now. And she said, you know, some are dropping off. And this morning I was talking to James. I said, honey, you know, Pat said that some of her people are dropping off. And I thought, you know, a lot of her people are senior citizens. And it could be they're not doing it on purpose. It could be that they're going to heaven because she's got faithful people that watch her all the way through, and her money stays good. You know, if y'all watch all the way through, we make more money, which I don't do this for money. I'm fine. You know, I get a good pension, and I got James. So I enjoy the money, don't get me wrong, because the Bible says that a laborer is worthy of their hire. And sometimes you labor with these thinking, what in the world am I going to talk about today or tomorrow, because I'm not too good a planner. I just talk about whatever pops into my head, but I planned this one. I wanted to tell the rest of Anne Marie's story, and I'm not done. So Anne Marie bought this beautiful double wide trailer, and honey, could she decorate. She was as good as Granny Pat any day of the week. I admired my friend Anna Marie. I'm not like that. I can't do it. Some people have that gift, I think, and Anne Marie had it, just like Pat does. So anyway, y'all watch Pat and watch. He's good. So I just love her. We're friends now, and we got acquainted on the internet because I was looking for grandmas, and I found her, and you know, I never commented on her, so now I shout her out every chance I get because she's one of my favorite people. Anyway, Anna Marie had a garden out back here at this trailer park where she could raise onions and 3 or 4 tomato plants. And out front, she had these beautiful rose bushes. You know, those roses that bloom all the time, those ever-blooming roses. Now, I have them in front of my house here, and we have them at James's house. But his yard is so shaded that they don't hardly make it. We keep losing them. Going to have to replant some this coming spring, I think. I don't think you can raise roses in shade very good. My yard is sunny, because when I was dating James, I had this big tree in my front yard, and I had a walnut tree. So he helped get rid of those trees. And now I don't have that problem. I have a sunny front yard, so I have roses in the front yard. And they just look beautiful. They bloom till frost, and sometimes after almost. They're so beautiful. So Anna Marie, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story on Anna Marie, my good friend. So we would go down to the overlook and eat the catfish, whole catfish. And it was like $20, and we would just order one dinner and share it, because those catfish were about, 8 inches long, and they were big. I mean, a whole catfish, not a fillet catfish, the whole thing, kit and caboodle. And she would eat one, and I would eat one. And then the scenery was so gorgeous down there at the overlook. James and I go down there every once in a while. I'm going to tell you something different now. I'll catch up later. Number 2 husband and I, my daughter Karen was in on vacation and visiting with me for a few days from wherever she was at, because her husband was in the Air Force and they kept moving around all the time. So I told Karen, I says, Karen, Floyd and I want to take you down to the overlook to eat. Now, he was a good companion, but he was tight as they come. He spent as little money as possible. So we went down to the overlook, and I said, Karen, what you want? She said, well, you've talked about the catfish. I'll just order that and share it with you. Is that okay, Floyd? Well, yeah, it was okay with him. He didn't care. But when it come down to paying, guess what? He couldn't find his pocketbook. I told Karen, I said, Karen, let it go. Don't say nothing. I'll pay for it. So I paid for it and took care of it. And she had a good dinner. But she still remembers how I said, Karen, I told her later, I said, he just didn't want to pay for it. He is so tight, he can't help it. And that's the way he was. Anything he could get. And when he passed away, he left his kids his money, which I didn't care. And he left the property, he owned them to them, and I didn't care about that either. I told him, keep everything. I don't want it. It's yours. I'm fine. I will make it on my own. And one day after he passed away, you know what? They called me up. And they said, we got some money for you. I said, I don't need any money. I said, I told you I'm making it fine. I was making it on my Social Security and my rent, which I rent a house. And they said, no, we insist. They were good Christian people. I mean, lovely people. And I just loved them, but I don't have track of them now. They went their way, I went mine. That's life. People pass through your life, and they're gone. And if I run into them, we love each other. But I don't go to visit them. But anyway, they said, we insist that you have this money. And so they came over, and they bought me $45,000. I couldn't believe it. I said, well, you don't have to do that. They said, we insist, and we are paying the taxes on it. Because Floyd left them a lot of money. And they shared it with me. Now, that's the Lord. That's a miracle, children. You know that mostly people don't love stepmothers. But they love me. They told me, you took such good care of Daddy. We appreciate it. And they meant it. How many people do you meet like that? I met some. Anyway, it really happened. So Anna Marie, after a while, she decided that she wanted to sell her double wide. That she was tired of fooling with that. She was growing older. And she says, I want to move into a place where I don't have a big yard, because she was having to take care of the yard. It had a nice big yard. Not those pines have nice yards. So she decided to move to Georgetown, Indiana, which was about 10 miles or so out of New Albany, out of town, into a housing for seniors. And it was like a 2-bedroom apartment. She lived out there for 5 years. I would go out and visit her. We didn't do many things together anymore. I'd pick her up and I wouldn't ride with her because I could tell she was not driving as good as she should be. We were about the same. She was a year older than me. And so I was still sharp, and I knew I was driving okay. I proved my driving. James rides with me, and I'm 91. Well, I'm a good driver, and I'm real careful because I realize I'm older. So anyway, I'd pick her up, and we'd go down to Overlook or go to the park or something and spend some time together. But to sit down with her and just stay out there, I could not do it. She'd say, just spend the day. Honey, I can't do that. I got to go home where my stuff is. And I'm a loner like that. But if we're doing something together, then it's fun. But to just sit down with somebody and try to make conversation, I want to read, I want to watch TV, I want to watch what I want to watch. Now, at James's house, we have 2 TVs, one in my studio that we have made and one in the living room. So when he watches football, guess where I am? Or I've got earphones. Now, this is how I watched Granny Pat last night when he was watching TV. He was watching the big TV. But I've got earphones like this. See this? This hooks, this is earphones, and this hooks into my iPad, and I can hear everything going on, and I don't hear his TV, and so I just keep him company sometimes and watch whatever I want to watch on my iPad while he's watching what he wants to on the big television. We worked it out. So, or if it's too much, I just go to the bedroom, which is now our studio and office. Oh, guess what? We was at, anyway, I better finish Anna Marie's story because I want this to finish today, and I'll tell you the other stuff. You know how things pop into my head. So anyway, Anna Marie was out there for 5 years, and I will say she hated it the whole 5 years. She really did. We would talk on the phone, and she said, I hate this place. The people are not friendly. The old people are not friendly that live by her. And she said, I haven't made friends with any of them. And she just never made another friend out there. So she got feeble when I saw her the last time. She drank tea. So, and she told me stories of Germany, and it was interesting, and I had heard them all. And so she would make tea. And the last time I was out there and she made tea, I noticed that she really didn't hardly know what she was doing, that she was getting like dementia. And Anne Marie wanted to donate her body to science, and that's what she did. So I didn't hear from her for a while, so I thought, I tried calling her, didn't get no answer. So I heard accidentally from somebody that James knew that lived out there in the project. Anne Marie's daughter worked at the office of this project, one of her daughters. We called her the hateful one, and she, not nice. She was not nice to her mom. She was very controlling. So anyway, I still get sorrowful at that in a way to think about it, but life goes on. So anyway, I accidentally found out because she gave her body to science, to U of L. They didn't have a funeral. They didn't have a memorial service. They never announced that she was dead. They just had them come pick her up at the hospital. And so when I saw her the last time, we had a nice little time together. Though I realized she knew I was and everything, but I realized that she might not be here much longer, and she wasn't. But we had a lot of good times, and what you do in this life is the Bible says, think on whatsoever things are lovely and good. If there be any profit, think on those things. That's Philippians, the 4th chapter. So I try to think on good things, and we had a lot of good times. And I'm still having good times with James. God supplies our every need. And I never dreamed I'd meet somebody and marry him at 76 years of age. Who would have thought it? I must say, these last few years, me going on YouTube, and it was in 2024, in December, that I did that first little video. And look what God has done. It's amazing. And my money's growing like crazy. And my subscribers now, There's a bunch of y'all don't like me because I'm a Republican and I like Trump. But I tell you what, children, I really don't think all those people should be coming. I really like it that he has closed the border, and maybe you disapprove and think they are to let them come, but all other countries have borders that you can. When we went to the West Indies, when your buddy, you couldn't come in there and stay but just so long, and if you did stay longer, they came and got you and shipped you out. We was at a church, Buddy and I, holding a revival in the West Indies, and they were so strict that we had to have our passport and everything to even get off the plane, man. And that's been years ago. Everybody has borders, so you just be careful who comes into your country. And Anne Marie was 5 years getting her citizenship, even though she married a soldier. And she was so happy when she told me about it, when she got her citizenship. I am a U.S. citizen, she said. Oh my goodness. 31 minutes. Oh, it's time for church. It's just exactly right. So I'm going to tune it in and do some streaming and drink my coffee that I wave around in front of you. Talk to you later. And walk that path. Make a research on how many times in the Bible that God talks about walking the right path. It's there in a lot of places. Bye-bye. Love you.